Under the lens of a microscope, a single grain of quartz glows with an inner wound, a scar of glass veins frozen in impossible stillness. This is shocked quartz, a crystal struck by forces beyond comprehension, born in an instant of heat hotter than the surface of the sun. A bullet scar on a field of time, proof that something immense, something from beyond the blue sky, had struck the earth. It carries within it the memory of violence, a moment when the heavens burned and the world itself trembled. This tiny grain, no larger than a speck of dust, dates back precisely 12,800 years. And with it begins one of the greatest enigmas in human history. For this microscopic witness marks the same moment the Earth was plunged into sudden, brutal cold, a near-glacial age that silenced mammoths, drowned forests, and erased cultures whose stories were never written. Could this tiny fragment be the only surviving witness of a cosmic event, so vast it reset the clock of civilization itself? Could it be the faintest whisper of a world that once thrived before the flood, a world we have forgotten? To search for the truth, we must journey to a place the waking mind rarely visits, the stillness of deep time. Feel the weight of your head on the pillow. Let the noise of the present fade away. What we are about to uncover lies beneath oceans, beneath ice, and beneath the deep silence of 12,800 years. The journey begins with a single question. If a civilization once walked this earth before the last great flood, where has time hidden its bones? 12,800 years. To the mind, it feels like a number to measure, to hold, to define. But time on that scale is not a number. It is an ocean. Imagine a single human life, 80 years of breath and memory. Now imagine 160 such lives, strung together end to end. Even that long chain of hearts and hopes would vanish like mist against the immensity of 12 millennia. Our species was already human then. Our dreams, our fears, our wonder the same. Yet the earth that held us was unrecognizable. A world half-draped in glaciers, winds carving valleys of ice, mammoths crossing endless plains of frost, saber-toothed shadows moving through the snow. And somewhere, along coastlines that no longer exist, humans looked toward the sea and began to build something more than survival. Now close your eyes and imagine the map you know, the continents, the familiar blue edge of shore. Then let the water fall away. 120 meters of ocean retreating. The seas shrink, the land expands. New continents rise where today the waves break. Vast plains appear, fertile deltas, great rivers, forests that reached horizons now drowned. If civilization had already begun, this was its world. A world of coastlines we will never walk again. The Great Deluge. Every ancient culture remembers it. The Sumerians spoke of the flood that wiped the slate clean. The Greeks, the Hindus, the Maya, all remembered waters that rose and took everything. Perhaps these were not myths, but memories, echoes of something their ancestors truly saw. When the Younger Dryas began, it did not whisper. It roared. The change came like the turning of a cosmic switch. Within years, perhaps months, the world froze. Rain became snow. Oceans withdrew. Forests turned to tundra. And species that had walked the earth for ages vanished almost overnight. The cause remains uncertain, but the signs point to the heavens. A fragmented comet, falling through the sky, ignited the air, melted the ice, set the continents ablaze. The skies darkened with dust and glass. The earth shivered beneath a new winter, a winter born of fire. Ice advanced again, sealing the wounds in frost. The sea fell and rose, as if the planet itself were breathing in pain. Whole landscapes disappeared beneath waves and silt. Mountains were stripped bare. Rivers changed their course. The memory of what came before was buried, sealed, and forgotten. We look back and see only fragments, a stone tool, a layer of charcoal, the fossil of a vanished beast. And we call these the beginnings of civilization. But beginnings deceive. What we can still see is not always where the story starts. The sea does not keep monuments. It swallows them. Every ancient coast, from the Indian Ocean to the Mediterranean, from the Americas to Southeast Asia, lies drowned beneath more than 100 meters of salt and pressure. There, in perfect darkness, any ruins that remain sleep beneath centuries of sand. The ocean is not merely water. It is time made liquid. Every wave carries atoms that once belonged to forests, to mountains, to cities long erased. It destroys, but it also remembers. Its memory is just too deep for us to hear. For those who seek the past, this silence is the great barrier. Machines can scan only so far. Currents bury what they touch. Pressure crushes what it holds. And so, the true foundations of history remain hidden in the cold black stillness of the deep. What we know of the ancient world is not the full story. It is what the earth chose to leave us. The rest sleeps beneath the waves, beyond reach, beyond light. The Younger Dryas stands as a border between worlds, before and after, fire and ice. It feels less like a chapter of history, and more like the earth turning a page. Before it, something may have flourished. After it, only survivors remained, carrying fragments of memory that would one day ignite the spark we now call civilization. We walk upon the bones of continents. We build our cities over the graves of others. And beneath the calm rhythm of the tide, the real story of humanity still sleeps. Imagine standing at the edge of that vanished world. Before you, the horizon stretches wide, not sea, but land. Salt plains glimmer, or now there is only depth. Wind moves across fields of tall grass, where whales now swim. Rivers flow through valleys that no longer see the sun. And far beyond, a chain of settlements lies scattered along what was once the ancient shore. There is smoke in the distance, the smoke of hearths. Human voices, carried by the wind, speak languages lost to time. They lived not in caves, but in dwellings of wood and clay, perhaps shaped by hands that already knew geometry, alignment, the rhythm of stars. The ocean they saw was gentle then, low and distant, its edge marked by reefs that would one day become mountains beneath the waves. That world was their cradle, a landscape of warmth and abundance, fertile and vast, open to exploration and trade. If knowledge arose before the cataclysm, it would have flourished here, where food was plentiful and the seasons steady. But the stability was a mirage. The planet was already trembling beneath its own weight. Ice sheets thousands of meters thick pressed down upon the poles. Vast lakes of meltwater gathered behind them, waiting for the smallest crack to release their fury. And above, the sky watched in silence, as fragments of a wandering comet drew closer with every orbit. Then the fire came. It might have begun as a single streak of light across the night, a brilliance so pure that shadows turned white. Moments later, the air ignited. The sky became a furnace. Forests burned in an instant. Animals fell without understanding why. And for days, the world rained fire. The oceans boiled near the coasts. Glaciers melted faster than rivers could carry the water away. Floods tore through valleys and deltas. Whole regions were swept clean of soil, stone, and life. When the fires ended, the smoke began, a veil that darkened the sun and cooled the world. What followed was silence. The sudden, impossible stillness after the storm. Snow began to fall, thick and endless. The light dimmed, the seasons broke. For over 1,000 years, the earth lingered in suspended winter. Civilizations, if they existed, would not have vanished slowly. They would have been erased overnight. Their harbors swallowed, their roads torn apart, their knowledge scattered among the few who survived. Those survivors must have wandered through ash and ice, carrying fragments of memory, myths, symbols, fears. Perhaps that is why stories of fire from the sky, of floods that rose without warning, echo in every ancient tongue. They were not inventions. They were inheritance. And as the millennia passed, the planet began to heal. The ice retreated. Rivers carved new paths. The seas rose again, swallowing what the cold had spared. Layer upon layer of sediment covered the past like pages glued together. When we dig today, we reach only the last few leaves of that book. Archaeology is an art of fragments. It tells us what remains, not what was lost. The tools of stone we find in riverbeds may not mark the dawn of human skill, but the shadows of something far older. The sudden emergence of agriculture, language, and monumental architecture may not have been invention, but remembrance. Imagine knowledge carried in whispers through generations. Memories of mathematics, navigation, healing, and astronomy handed down in broken form by the few who survived the deluge. They would have appeared to their descendants as gods, bearers of impossible understanding, keepers of stories that began before history. And yet, time is merciless. What is not written is lost. What is buried beneath the sea becomes part of it. The waves do not preserve. They dissolve. Every tide that rolls upon the shore is a quiet erasure of the past. The coral grows over stone. The silt settles over ruins. The water remembers, but only in silence. That is the true obstacle we face in seeking the past. Not ignorance, but the ocean itself. It guards the secret of what came before us, and it has no reason to reveal it. 12,800 years ago, a boundary was drawn between the world that was and the world we know. We have built our entire history on the surviving side of that line. But beneath it, beneath the waves, beneath the ice, beneath the deep silence of time, there may still rest the first chapter of who we truly are. And perhaps that is why the mystery endures, because to look for that lost civilization is not only to search for them, but to search for ourselves. The world did not simply end in fire and ice. It transformed, rearranged, reshaped by forces far beyond human comprehension. Floodwaters tore through valleys once fertile, sweeping away settlements we will never know. Mountains shed their glaciers like skin, and rivers carved new paths in mere months, as if the Earth's heartbeat had accelerated. Imagine standing at a delta, where reeds once waved gently in the wind, now replaced by a churning expanse of gray water. The smell of salt and mud fills the air, a heavy perfume that lingers in lungs and memory alike. Flocks of birds rise in panic, their wings striking invisible walls of steam and ash. Fish are driven into shallows, disoriented, as currents change direction violently. And in the shadows, humans clutch each other, carrying what they can: food, fire, children. Some flee toward mountains, seeking refuge in caves. Others remain, unable to leave behind the hearths that have kept generations alive. No one could outrun the deluge entirely. Some were swallowed by water, others by collapse, landslides, falling ice, sudden firestorms. The survivors wandered through landscapes that had turned unfamiliar overnight. The grass they had walked upon yesterday was now mud. The river they had fished from was now an ocean's edge. The skies burned with the reflection of fire, yet they also held the strange glow of molten rock raining from above. And beneath it all, the earth remembered. Layer upon layer of silt, sand, and ash fell into place, burying what once thrived. Forests drowned under sudden seas. Plains became marshes, and marshes became lakes. Animals that had ruled the land disappeared, leaving only bones and impressions in hardened soil. A mammoth's footstep in clay, a saber-toothed tiger's paw print, pressed into mud. These became the only echoes of beings that had walked for millennia. Civilization, if it existed, vanished like smoke. Not slowly, but instantaneously. Courts, harbors, settlements, fields erased. Perhaps they had knowledge we can barely imagine. Navigation, engineering, the observation of stars. And yet, not a single monument survived above the rising waters. Everything ephemeral, everything delicate, swept away by cosmic will and the relentless hand of ice and ocean. If you listen carefully, you can hear the planet's memory. It's not in voices, not in stone, but in the sediment. Microscopic glass formed under unimaginable heat. Platinum and iridium sprinkled across the continents like a signature from the sky. Carbon layers, thick and black, record the mourning of forests and beasts alike. Every fossil, every fragment of charcoal, every layer of glass, these are the whispers of the world, telling us what we could not see. And we, gazing across oceans and millennia, must learn to listen. We dig and scan, probe and measure, but our tools touch only a fraction of what remains. Much of it sleeps beneath the waves, beneath the ice, beneath a quiet so deep it almost hums with the heartbeat of the past. Imagine a lost city on a submerged plain. The ocean above is calm now, reflecting clouds and sky, but below, its pressure preserves the memory of streets, homes, and gardens. The people who lived there once moved through corridors of sunlight and shadow. They planted crops, watched the moon, perhaps studied the stars with instruments we can barely reconstruct. And then, as the sky fell, they vanished. Perhaps the survivors carried fragments of knowledge, maps, calculations, symbols, handed down in whispers, myths, and ritual. They became teachers to those who followed, the ancestors of the builders of stone circles and temples. Göbekli Tepe, for example, rising immediately after the Younger Dryas, stands not merely as an archaeological curiosity, but as a possible echo of something far older. A whisper of knowledge, a ghost of the world that drowned beneath rising waters. The silence that followed the catastrophe was profound. The Younger Dryas was not merely cold. It was the planet's pause, its breath held after a cosmic strike. Seasons faltered, ice advanced, rivers froze and reformed. Life persisted, but the world was reshaped in ways both visible and hidden. Now imagine the mind of a survivor, facing a land they knew, yet no longer recognized. Rivers redirected, valleys flooded, the sky streaked with unexplainable fire. They must have wondered if the earth itself had betrayed them. Yet they persisted, they adapted, and in their survival, they carried the faint glow of a civilization we can no longer touch. History, then, is only part of the story. It tells of what remained, not what was lost. We piece together fragments, a layer of glass, a platinum sprinkle, a fossilized beast. We read the sediment, but most words remain hidden beneath oceans and ice, beneath cataclysmic layers of mud and stone. What was it like? We may never know, to stand in the shadow of a world-ending fire, to see the sky turn white-hot, then black, then pale gray with smoke, to hear the roar of rivers overflowing, the crack of glaciers, the scream of animals fleeing, and then to wake in a world unrecognizable, a frozen horizon, a changed climate, a displaced people. And yet, life endured. Trees returned. Grass spread across plains once scorched. Rivers carved new canyons. Animals repopulated, though many species were gone forever. Humans rebuilt, carried forward fragments of what had been lost, and over thousands of years, forgot the world before the fire and ice. But the traces remain, if we know how to see them. A grain of shocked quartz tells of heat hotter than the surface of the sun. Layers of carbon mourn forests and megafauna. Platinum and iridium mark a fingerprint from the cosmos. The ocean guards the rest, a deep, silent library of what was waiting for a patient mind to read its pages. The challenge, then, is immense. To reconstruct a civilization lost beneath water, ice, and sediment. To imagine a world erased almost entirely from existence. To bridge the gap between what we see and what must have been. To ask not only how life survived, but what knowledge, what ingenuity, what human endeavor was swept into the depths, never to be found again. And yet, in standing here, we feel it. The weight of time, the memory of water, the silence of continents long vanished. We are witnesses, brief and fragile, to the aftermath of something cosmic. The ocean waves lap gently against shores that did not exist in the past. The wind moves through forests that grew after catastrophe. But beneath it all, the earth remembers, and perhaps it waits as if testing us, to see if we are patient enough, quiet enough, to listen to the whispers of a world erased, to trace the fingerprints of fire in ice, to understand that what we call history is merely the fragment left above water. Where has time hidden its bones? What we are about to uncover lies beneath oceans, beneath ice, and beneath the deep silence of 12,800 years. And in that silence, the first true challenge of this journey emerges: to imagine, with both awe and humility, what the earth has seen, what it has buried, and what we may never hold in our hands, yet can still touch with the mind, the heart, and the imagination. And yet, imagination alone cannot tell the full story. If we wish to uncover what truly transpired, we must follow the evidence buried in stone, sediment, and glass. We must become detectives of deep time, tracing cosmic fingerprints across continents, reading the silent language of melted minerals, carbon layers, and platinum traces. The clues are faint, scattered, and often overlooked, but they are real, waiting for careful eyes, patient hands, and minds willing to listen to the whispers left by a world forever changed. It is here, at the threshold of imagination and observation, that our journey takes its next step into the forensic hunt for echoes, the signatures of a cataclysm that reshaped the earth. The past leaves traces, but not always in forms we immediately recognize. Beneath layers of soil, under sediment pressed by millennia, there are whispers of catastrophe, subtle fingerprints that only the most patient eyes can discern. We call these clues catastrophic sediments, the quiet witnesses of fire, ice, and cosmic violence. They are not monuments. They do not shout their presence. They are fine, almost imperceptible, yet they speak of events so vast they reshape the climate, the oceans, and life itself. To seek them is to become a detective of time. Each grain of sand, each fragment of glass, each trace of metal carries a story, a memory of heat, pressure, and unimaginable force. Some might call it archaeology, some geology. But here, it is a forensic investigation, the science of whispers. Imagine a laboratory filled with microscopes, spectrometers, and instruments that can detect elements invisible to the naked eye. A single grain of shocked quartz can reveal temperatures hotter than the surface of the sun, pressure beyond anything we can replicate with machines. A thin layer of platinum scattered across continents becomes a cosmic signature, the fingerprint of fragments from the sky. Nanodiamonds, melt glass, carbon-rich mats, each a tiny relic of destruction, each a clue to a world we can only reconstruct through patience, intuition, and science. The notion of a technofossil footprint enters here. The idea that if an advanced civilization had existed, it may have left evidence not in towering monuments, but in material traces, chemical markers, and patterns embedded in the sediment. These signs would not scream civilization. They would whisper. And yet, when aligned with cosmic events, they reveal something extraordinary. A single cometary airburst, for instance, might melt minerals across a continent, deposit rare metals in a coherent layer, and send the planet into abrupt cooling. If humans, or any advanced beings, had been present, their traces would mingle with these cosmic signatures. This is the essence of the forensic hunt. It is not speculation alone. It is the patient reading of a planet's memory. Geology, chemistry, paleontology, all converge to tell a story that is fragmentary, yet astonishingly precise. Every site examined tells a part of the tale. Rivers that once flowed calmly now reveal layers of melted glass and platinum scattered across the floodplains. Lakes long vanished leave behind nanodiamonds in the clay, microscopic evidence of heat and force. Carbon layers, black as morning, stretch across continents, hinting at forests incinerated and megafauna swept away. And as we follow these traces, patterns emerge. It is not random. It is not gradual. The evidence aligns, suggesting a synchronous event. A moment in time when heat, fire, ice, and water converge to alter the world on a planetary scale. To trace these signatures is to walk alongside a vanished world. The sediments speak of deserts and forests alike, of plains that once teemed with mammoths and saber-toothed predators. They speak of humans, tools, and fleeting civilizations that may have been caught in the crossfire. Every grain, every layer, is a testament to the fact that the Earth remembers, even when our histories cannot. The challenge lies not in imagination, but in reading subtlety, in distinguishing between the ordinary and the extraordinary, between the slow march of erosion and the sudden violence of cosmic impact. Here, every measurement, every chemical signature becomes evidence. And the detective work is not fast. It is deliberate. It is meditative. For to rush is to miss the whispers of 12,800 years. We move from continent to continent, laboratory to laboratory, following the faint threads of the past. The platinum layer, for example, appears across North America, Europe, and Asia, an improbable coherence that hints at a global phenomenon. Nanodiamonds emerge in sediment far from the putative impact site. Melted glass glimmers under microscopes, and carbon mats stretch across valleys that now lie beneath modern cities. The puzzle is immense. The pieces are scattered, yet the pattern, subtle, quiet, undeniable, begins to take shape. And so, our hunt begins not with certainty, but with questions. What fell from the sky? What burned, melted, or drowned in the aftermath? Which species survived, and which vanished without a trace? And perhaps most hauntingly, if humans were already on these lands, what knowledge, what lives, what societies were erased in a heartbeat? To follow these traces is to enter a world that is part science, part imagination, part reverence. It is a place where microscopes reveal the scale of cosmic fire, where layers of sediment whisper of loss and survival, and where each measurement is a step closer to understanding a story the Earth has guarded jealously for millennia. We become detectives of deep time, seeking not a crime scene, but the aftermath of cosmic cataclysm. And in that pursuit, the whispers of the past guide us. A grain of quartz, a carbon gnat, a speck of platinum, each a breadcrumb leading through the silence of oceans, the pressure of ice, and the stillness of vanished civilizations. The forensic hunt demands patience, humility, and imagination. It asks us to see patterns where none are obvious, to read evidence written in fire and water, to interpret the language of stone and dust. And as we do, the story begins to coalesce. Not a slow cooling, not mere environmental fluctuation, but a single planet-altering moment. Across continents, a thin, almost invisible layer appears in the sediment, platinum, a metal rare in the Earth's crust, sprinkled like cosmic dust. It is not mere coincidence. It is a signature, a fingerprint from the heavens. A first discovery was subtle. Traces of platinum and iridium at precisely the layer corresponding to the start of the Younger Dryas. Scientists, puzzled, examined soils in North America, Europe, and Asia. The distribution was global, yet the layer itself measured only millimeters in thickness. Small, but profound, tiny dots of metal scattered across the globe told a story of fire, impact, and transformation. Platinum does not arrive by accident. It is forged in stars, delivered to Earth only by extraordinary means, meteorites, comets, celestial fragments. Its presence in the sediments is a cosmic signature, an unmistakable sign that something from beyond the blue sky struck the planet with force unimaginable. Every grain is a testament to the sky's touch upon the Earth, a silent witness to catastrophe. Imagine walking through a valley in North America, 12,800 years ago. The sky streaks white-hot. Fragments of a comet break apart, falling toward the land. The air ignites, temperatures soar, forests smolder. And then, in a subtle but universal way, the platinum rains down. Not in fire, but in a whisper, a trace, a line, a mark of what has passed. Platinum is not the only clue. Iridium, another rare element, appears alongside it. Together, they form a metallic trail across time and space, linking distant landscapes into a single narrative of impact. It is as if the heavens themselves wrote in metal, leaving instructions for the patient, observant, and imaginative to follow. This cosmic fingerprint aligns with other signatures in the sediment. Layers of melted glass, nanodiamonds, carbon-rich mats, all coincide with the platinum and iridium. The pattern is not gradual. It is sudden, synchronous, precise. A global event, instantaneous in geological terms, leaving no room for slow climate change to account for its effect. The metaphor is clear. The Earth bears a scar, not in mountains or rivers, but in metal, glass, and carbon. The platinum layer is the closest we come to touching the handprint of the cosmos. It whispers of fire hotter than the surface of the sun, of air ignited by celestial impact, of temperatures that melted rock and soil alike. And yet, within this metal signature, one senses another story, perhaps the faint traces of life caught in the crossfire. If humans or an advanced culture existed on the coasts or plains, their dwellings, hearths, and tools may have been incinerated in the heat of the event. The platinum falls quietly, but it hints at a more complex narrative. A civilization, or fragments of one, erased from sight, leaving only whispers in rare metals. The distribution of the platinum layer is astonishing in its coherence. From the Mississippi River Valley to the European plains, from Siberian steppes to Asian lowlands, it marks the same moment in time. It is a universal timestamp, a signal that something enormous struck, something that reshaped the Earth's climate almost overnight. Temperatures dropped. The Younger Dryas winter gripped the planet. Rivers froze, forests died. Animals vanished. Humans endured, if they survived at all. The detective work begins here. By sampling sediments, measuring the concentration of platinum and iridium, and correlating layers across continents, scientists construct a map of impact, a map of both destruction and survival. Each measurement is a clue. Each cross-continent comparison strengthens the hypothesis. The Earth was struck, and the signal is unmistakable. And yet, the metal is subtle, almost poetic in its restraint. It does not scream. It does not make mountains collapse or oceans rise by itself. It is a whisper, a quiet mark of a cosmic event, waiting for those who can read it. To see it, one must be patient, methodical, reverent. One must become a detective of deep time, capable of imagining the scale of destruction while observing the minutiae of metal in a lab. The platinum layer also hints at something profound, the global nature of the event. It is not confined to a single impact crater. It is scattered, as if the comet fragmented before striking, its pieces raining across continents in a series of airbursts. Each fragment ignites the atmosphere, melts rock, sets fire to forests, and deposits its metallic mark. The coherence of the metal layer, the distribution of rare elements, tells the story of a simultaneous planetary transformation. And here, the metaphor deepens. The cosmic dust is not only evidence of catastrophe, it is also a bridge to understanding the lost civilizations. If humans, or something like them, lived on the coasts or plains that were struck, they too left traces, now buried beneath sediment, hidden by fire and flood. The platinum, falling gently like snow from the sky, would have mingled with their tools, their ashes, perhaps even the remnants of structures now vanished beneath rising seas. It is a silent intersection, the hand of the cosmos touching the ephemeral hand of life. This is the moment when imagination and science converge. We can picture the comet streaking across the sky, the fire igniting in the air, the heat melting minerals, and the metal sprinkling down, tiny yet eternal, a record of the unimaginable, written across the earth. The forensic hunt continues. From platinum, we move to glass, to nanodiamonds, to carbon mats. Each layer corroborates the metal's story. The past whispers, the metals shine, and the sediments speak. All that remains is to listen carefully, to read patiently, to reconstruct the impossible. In this way, the platinum layer is both evidence and invitation. It invites us to investigate further, to trace the cosmic fingerprints, to follow the subtle trail left in sediments across the globe. It challenges us to ask the questions we cannot yet answer. What burned in the fires? What sank beneath the waves? What knowledge, what civilizations, what lives vanished alongside the forests and megafauna? The metal does not tell us everything. It gives us a starting point, a map drawn in rare elements, a cosmic timestamp, a key to unlock the deeper investigation. It is the first clue in the forensic hunt, and the echo of something far greater, a story hidden beneath layers of time, waiting for patient minds to uncover it. Beneath the microscope, the sediments reveal another marvel, melted glass, gleaming fragments that once flowed as molten rock. Each shard tells a story of heat so intense, it transforms matter, altering the very structure of the minerals it touches. The temperature required is unimaginable, far beyond the fires of a forest, far hotter than any volcanic eruption. It is the furnace of 1,000 suns, captured in a fragment of earth, preserved for us to see. Alongside the glass, nanodiamonds emerge, crystalline structures so small they escape the naked eye. Yet they record temperatures and pressures impossible to generate naturally in the calm of ordinary geology. Lonsdaleite, a rare form of diamond, forms only under extreme conditions, cosmic impact or nuclear-like explosions. Here, in the sediments, it lies as a frozen testament to catastrophe. Imagine the sky above 12,800 years ago. A comet fragments in the atmosphere, fire raining across plains, forests igniting as the air itself roars with energy. The heat melts sand and soil into glass. Pressure crystallizes carbon into nanodiamonds. The earth itself becomes a crucible, baking landscapes into signatures that will endure for millennia. These fragments are not random. They appear globally, aligned with the platinum and iridium layer. From North America to Europe, from Siberia to Asia, the evidence is synchronous. It is not a slow accumulation of heat or fire. It is sudden, catastrophic, planet-altering. The scattered fragments of comet and molten earth tell a story written in both cosmic and terrestrial elements, an event that reshaped the climate, the biosphere, and perhaps the fate of civilizations. And yet, the beauty of this science lies in the subtlety. Melted glass glimmers only under careful light. Nanodiamonds remain invisible until magnified, measured, cataloged. The narrative is delicate, hidden, requiring patience and reverence. It is not enough to look, one must see. Not enough to measure, one must interpret. Here, science becomes poetry, and every observation is a meditation on the forces that shape our world. Carbon-rich mats, black and somber, overlay these layers of glass and diamond. They record the mourning of the planet. Forests burned, grasslands charred, megafauna lost. The land itself remembers, pressing its grief into clay and sediment. The nanodiamonds and glass do not merely tell of cosmic impact. They bear witness to life caught in the crossfire. They are the furnace and the shroud, the fire and the mourning, entwined in a single moment frozen for eternity. Scientists call these impact proxies, fingerprints left in the material of Earth by events beyond ordinary understanding. But to a careful observer, they are also narratives. They describe not just heat and pressure, but scale and simultaneity. The Earth was not merely warmed, it was transformed. The atmosphere, the oceans, the biosphere, all were affected almost instantly. The molten glass and nanodiamonds also provide a bridge to the unknown. If there were advanced humans, or something like them, these materials may have interacted with the artifacts of their lives. Structures may have melted. Tools may have fused with sediments. Hearths may have burned and crystallized into invisible records. The cosmic signature intertwines with the terrestrial, creating a forensic map that is both universal and intimate. The detective's task is meticulous. Samples are collected from riverbeds, lake bottoms, and ancient floodplains. Glass is identified, analyzed, and compared. Nanodiamonds are counted, measured, and mapped. The pattern grows, synchronous, global, unmistakable. The Earth speaks in fragments, but its message is coherent. And yet, these pieces are only the beginning. Each fragment invites deeper questions. What was the distribution of energy across continents? Which areas bore the brunt of heat and fire? Which creatures, which humans, which settlements vanished instantly? And which survived to tell a story we can only guess at? The nanodiamonds in melted glass also connect the cosmic to the human. They are evidence of celestial violence, yet they also hint at what might have been present on Earth at that moment. Civilizations, settlements, tools, hearths, ephemeral human footprints buried beneath impact, hidden beneath sediments and rising seas. They remind us that cataclysm is indiscriminate. It leaves behind both grandeur and silence, both wonder and mourning. To trace the nanodiamonds is to follow the trail of heat and pressure, to imagine the sky ablaze and the earth transforming beneath it. To trace the glass is to witness a landscape molten and reshaped, a record of fire frozen into stone. Together with the platinum and iridium, these materials form a mosaic, a global forensic picture of destruction and survival. And it is here that science becomes almost spiritual. For in every shard, every crystalline particle, every trace of metal, we confront the scale of time and force. We are reminded that the earth is vast, the cosmos is vast, and human history is but a fragile thread woven into an immense tapestry. The forensic hunt, then, is not merely about identification. It is about synthesis. It is about seeing the connections between the cosmic impact, the molten glass, the nanodiamonds, the platinum layer, and the carbon mats. It is about reconstructing the catastrophe, not just as an event, but as a narrative that encompasses Earth, sky, and the fleeting presence of life. And as we step back, observing the evidence arrayed across continents and laboratory tables, the pattern becomes undeniable. A single synchronous planet-altering event, recorded in metal, glass, carbon, and diamond, etched across the Earth like a silent cosmic poem. It is this meticulous reading of the traces, this forensic dance with deep time, that allows us to glimpse the magnitude of what occurred, not only in the materials themselves, but in what they erased, obscured, or transformed. Not merely in the devastation of life, but in the potential loss of knowledge, culture, and civilization. And so, the nanodiamonds and molten glass invite the next step, to look deeper, to connect these materials with the morning layers, the black mats, and the vanished megafauna, to trace the story from cosmic strike to planetary response, from extinction to human survival. The detective work continues. The evidence waits, and the Earth whispers its secrets patiently to those who dare to listen. Beneath the layers of platinum, glass, and nanodiamonds lies another, darker story, the black mats. These carbon-rich sediments stretch across river valleys, floodplains, and ancient lakes, a somber shroud laid upon the Earth at the very moment of the Younger Dryas. They are dense, heavy with the memory of life, and quiet, almost reverent in their testimony. The black mats are more than soot or ordinary soil. They are an archive of destruction and mourning. Every charred fragment, every darkened layer, speaks of forests consumed by fire, grasslands scorched, and creatures felled by the sudden onset of cold, famine, and chaos. They record a planetary grief, pressed into clay and sediment, layer upon layer, continent upon continent. And within these mats, the evidence of loss is staggering. Mammoths, mastodons, saber-toothed cats, giant ground sloths, 75% of the large megafauna vanish almost simultaneously with the deposition of the black mats. The extinction is not gradual. It is abrupt, synchronous, echoing the arrival of the cosmic fingerprints above. Life, in its grandeur and diversity, faltered in the face of forces beyond comprehension. Yet these mats are also intimate records. They capture not only death, but change. Seeds burned, pollen charred, forests replaced by tundra. Waterways shifted, lakes drained, coastlines erased beneath rising seas. The black mats are the planet's mourning song, a silent chronicle of both violence and transformation. And alongside this ecological record lies evidence of human culture, fragile and fleeting. The Clovis people, known for their sophisticated tools and spear points, vanish in the same layers. Their campsites, hearths, and stone tools disappear, leaving only traces beneath the black mats. The synchronous collapse of megafauna and human culture is a haunting reminder of vulnerability and fragility of life in the face of planetary catastrophe. Imagine a landscape 12,800 years ago. Mammoths roam vast plains, saber-tooths prowl dense forests, human families hunt and gather along rivers. The sky streaks white-hot with fragments of a disintegrating comet. Heat and pressure melt the land, set fire to forests, and leave behind rare metals raining down across continents. Then comes the cold, a sudden plunge into near glacial winter, a drop so sharp it freezes rivers, kills vegetation, and collapses ecosystems. The black mats are the imprint of that moment, the silent shroud that the earth pressed upon its own memory. These mats also carry evidence of firestorms, of localized conflagrations that consumed life, leaving only carbon behind. Each layer, dark and dense, is a testament to the speed and intensity of destruction. They are geological memorials, a record of an extinction event that was sudden, vast, and universal. And yet, they are subtle, almost invisible to the casual observer, requiring careful excavation, patient study, and imaginative interpretation. The connection to the platinum layer, melted glass, and nanodiamonds is unmistakable. The event that deposited rare metals also generated extreme heat and pressure. It burned landscapes, incinerated megafauna, and reshaped climates. The black mats record the biological response to the cosmic violence, a synchronous global echo of the planetary catastrophe. And within these mats, a question emerges, quiet but insistent. If humans existed on the coasts or plains, what traces of their culture were preserved, and what was lost forever? The Clovis disappearance is a clue, but perhaps there were other, older civilizations already in existence. The black mats may conceal more than ecological history. They may guard the memory of knowledge, technology, and human endeavor erased in an instant. The metaphor is profound. The black mats are the shroud of mourning, not only for the animals and ecosystems lost, but for the ephemeral civilizations that vanished alongside them. They are silent, somber, and heavy with the weight of history, a record pressed into the earth by fire, ice, and cosmic fate. Scientists approach the black mats with reverence. They measure the carbon content, identify microfossils, trace isotopic signatures. They map the mats across continents, comparing sites in North America, Europe, and Asia. The coherence is extraordinary. The pattern is global. The event was not local. It was planetary, synchronous, a cosmic tragedy recorded in stone, sediment, and carbon. To follow the black mats is to follow the mourning of the earth. It is to witness ecosystems unraveling, species disappearing, and human cultures collapsing. It is to trace the shadow of a cataclysm that reshaped the world in moments, not centuries. And yet, even in the mourning, there is a narrative of survival. Some humans endured, some species adapted, and the earth slowly began to recover. leaving clues for us to follow 12,800 years later. The black mats also invite speculation about the lost civilizations we may never see. If humans were already established, with settlements, tools, and knowledge, what else vanished beneath these dark layers? The mats are a reminder that cataclysm is indiscriminate, that cosmic forces can erase entire chapters of history in an instant. They are both evidence and meditation, scientific data and poetic witness. And so, as we trace the platinum, the glass, the nanodiamonds, and the black mats, a picture emerges. A global catastrophe, sudden and synchronous, marked by heat, fire, cosmic debris, and climate collapse. Life faltered. Megafauna vanished. The Clovis people disappeared. And perhaps, somewhere beneath oceans, ice, and cataclysmic sediment, traces of lost human knowledge remain hidden. The black mats conclude this chapter of evidence, tying together the forensic puzzle with both subtlety and power. They are the planet's memory, pressed into soil and sediment, awaiting patient minds to decipher their meaning. And now, as we step back from the meticulous examination of each clue, a broader pattern begins to emerge. The platinum, iridium, melted glass, nanodiamonds, and black mats, once seemingly disparate, converge into a single synchronous narrative. They are not isolated anomalies. They are threads of a tapestry woven by cosmic force, planetary response, and biological consequence. Consider the platinum layer, scattered yet coherent across continents, a whisper of celestial origin. Consider the nanodiamonds, crystalline echoes of heat and pressure that only a cataclysm could produce. Consider the molten glass, transformed from earth and sand into fragments of fire frozen in time. And the black mats, pressed into valleys and floodplains, mourning the loss of megafauna and human cultures alike. Each layer alone is remarkable. Together, they tell a story of immediacy, magnitude, and global synchrony. The event that left these signatures was not gradual. It was sudden. It reshaped climates, oceans, and ecosystems. It extinguished 75% of the megafauna. It erased the Clovis people, and it left whispers of a civilization, human or otherwise, beneath sediments now submerged or buried under cataclysmic layers. The coherence of these signatures allows us to reconstruct the scale of the Younger Dryas catastrophe. It was not merely a cold spell. It was a planetary trauma. The Earth's systems, atmosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere, biosphere, responded almost instantaneously to the impact. Rivers froze, floodplains drowned, forests burned. The land was transformed, its memory recorded in layers of sediment that scientists now painstakingly study. The forensic hunt has revealed something extraordinary: the simultaneous deposition of rare metals, the formation of nanodiamonds, the creation of melt glass, and the imprint of black mats are all tightly bound in time. They converge on a single narrow slice of history, the very moment that marks the onset of the Younger Dryas, 12,800 years ago. This is not coincidence. This is planetary synchrony. This is the Earth itself, telling a story of sudden, profound transformation. And yet, within this narrative lies ambiguity, and therein lies wonder. The evidence points to cosmic impact, to sudden cooling, to mass extinction. But it also hints at what may have existed before the catastrophe. Fleeting cultures, coastal settlements, knowledge lost to fire and flood. The traces are subtle, almost invisible, yet they challenge the simple, linear narratives of human history. They ask us to consider not only the scale of destruction, but also the fragility of civilizations in the face of forces beyond comprehension. This is the moment when science and imagination intersect. The forensic evidence is precise, measurable, and reproducible. The interpretation, however, requires something more: patience, vision, and a willingness to entertain profound possibilities. We follow the breadcrumbs laid down in platinum, diamond, glass, and carbon. We trace the echoes of a moment that reshaped the world, and we allow ourselves to wonder what, or who, existed on the lands now hidden beneath oceans or ice. The global alignment of these signatures is humbling. It is evidence of a cataclysmic event that left no single monument, no preserved city, no towering stone to record its passage. Instead, it left microscopic particles, blackened layers, and rare metals, subtle, poetic, yet unmistakable markers of the unimaginable. To read them is to listen to the Earth's voice, soft but insistent. It is to become a detective of deep time, capable of tracing the invisible hand of cosmic catastrophe through the quiet sediment of the planet. And as the pattern becomes clear, we can begin to synthesize the evidence into a coherent picture. A fragmented comet strikes the Earth, depositing platinum and iridium across continents. Extreme heat generates melt glass and nanodiamonds. Forests, plains, and rivers are transformed by fire and pressure. Carbon-rich mats preserve the morning of life. Megafauna vanish. Human cultures, fragile and fleeting, disappear. The Earth records all of this, layer by layer, continent by continent. This coherent picture, emerging from meticulous forensic work, allows us to take the next step. It moves us from observation to understanding, from evidence to speculation, and from the microscopic details to the broad sweep of planetary history. We begin to ask new questions. If civilizations existed on the coasts, how much knowledge, technology, and culture were lost beneath the sediment and the sea? If the Younger Dryas was the trigger for societal collapse, what did the survivors carry forward into post-cataclysmic cultures? And how does this global synchrony reshape our understanding of human history? The evidence compels us to see the Younger Dryas not as a minor climatic anomaly, but as a prologue to mystery, catastrophe, and transformation. The forensic signatures provide the license to speculate, grounded in scientific observation and meticulous measurement. They are breadcrumbs leading through the silence of 12,800 years, pointing toward lost knowledge, vanished lives, and the ephemeral presence of civilizations erased in an instant. And so, as we close this chapter of the forensic hunt, we pause to reflect on the profound scale of the story. The Earth has spoken through metal, glass, diamond, and carbon. The catastrophe is written in the sediment, and the traces of life, culture, and possibly civilization remain. Hidden beneath layers we are only beginning to decipher. And so, as the forensic hunt concludes, we pause to consider a question of scale. If finding these chemical whispers is this challenging, how can we ever hope to find the stone, the tools, or the structures of the people who may have lived through the fire and the flood? This question leads us away from the laboratory and into the realm of profound speculation. Yet it is speculation anchored in the hardest of sciences. The Earth speaks in layers, but sometimes it whispers in a language too subtle for ordinary eyes. We have followed platinum, nanodiamonds, melt glass, and black mats, tracing the fingerprints of catastrophe across continents. And yet, as remarkable as these clues are, they do not stand alone. They invite reflection on deeper possibilities, on civilizations that may have risen and fallen beneath the sweep of ice and the deluge of the oceans. Consider the Silurian hypothesis, a thought experiment born not of speculation alone, but of rigorous scientific curiosity. It asks, could an industrial civilization have existed millions of years before humans, leaving behind only the faintest whispers of its existence? The experiment is rooted in logic, grounded in geology, and constrained by the patient mechanisms of decay. Over tens of millions of years, sedimentation, erosion, tectonic upheaval, and subduction would erase most traces of industry, architecture, and technology. Only chemical anomalies, subtle isotopic ratios, or rare mineral deposits might hint at something once more complex. Now, consider the Younger Dryas. Only 12,800 years separate us from that period, a blink in geological time. Yet in that span, Much has already vanished. Rising seas swallowed coastlines. Floods buried settlements. Ice sheets advanced and receded, crushing the fragile traces of habitation. If traces of a hypothetical million-year-old civilization are almost impossible to find, how much more so for one erased in a single, cataclysmic season? It is a thought that demands humility. It forces us to confront the limits of archaeology and the ephemerality of human endeavor. And here, the imagination aligns with evidence. The Silurian hypothesis is not proof. It is a lens through which we can view the Younger Dryas, allowing us to ask, what if some knowledge, some culture, some civilization existed and vanished, leaving only whispers beneath sediments and waves? It legitimizes speculation within the bounds of science, reminding us that absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. The Earth has a long memory, but it does not always make its stories easy to read. Our next clue emerges not from hypothetical millions of years, but from something far closer to our own timeline. Göbekli Tepe. Rising from the Fertile Crescent, this temple complex astonishes archaeologists with its scale, artistry, and sophistication. Stone pillars are carved with animals, abstract symbols, and complex arrangements that suggest purpose, ritual, and intellect far beyond the assumed capabilities of post-glacial hunter-gatherers. It is as if knowledge appeared suddenly, accelerated, like a spark igniting in the aftermath of darkness. The timing is remarkable. Göbekli Tepe was constructed shortly after the end of the Younger Dryas. The Clovis culture had vanished, megafauna were gone, and the world had been reshaped by fire, flood, and cold. And yet, here, in this newly stabilized climate, a complex temple emerges. The abrupt sophistication suggests not an isolated rise, but perhaps a transmission of knowledge, memory, or tradition from survivors of the lost world. The stones themselves cannot speak, but their arrangement, their purpose, and their craftsmanship hint at continuity through catastrophe. And consider the possibility that lost civilizations may have held knowledge of navigation, agriculture, or even energy systems. The evidence is faint, almost imperceptible, but the imprint is there. Accelerated cultural development, sudden leaps in architectural and social complexity, the foundations of organized ritual, and perhaps the early stirrings of mathematics and astronomy. We see hints, subtle yet persistent, that the post-Younger Dryas world may have inherited fragments of wisdom from a world that disappeared beneath water and ice. This is where scientific observation and poetic speculation meet. The platinum layers, the nanodiamonds, the black mats, and Göbekli Tepe are threads in a narrative that spans catastrophe, survival, and transmission. We are allowed, within reason and with evidence as our anchor, to wonder about the civilizations that may have existed and vanished before our recorded history. If microcrystals and metals are all that remain of a cataclysmic event, what of knowledge, technology, and culture? What else, beneath the oceans or buried beneath meters of sediment, lies hidden, waiting to be discovered, or perhaps forever lost? The geological record challenges the traditional, linear narrative of human history. We tend to imagine a smooth progression, a steady ascent from simple bands of hunter-gatherers to complex societies. The Younger Dryas interrupts this vision. It is not a mere anomaly or climatic footnote. It is a violent punctuation mark, a reminder that history is fragile, nonlinear, and unpredictable. Civilizations can rise, flourish briefly, and vanish in the span of decades, centuries, or even a single climatic catastrophe. It is here, at this intersection of real science and profound speculation, that our journey finds its footing. We are grounded in the measurable: isotopes, nanodiamonds, glass, carbon layers. We are inspired by the improbable: sudden temple complexes, accelerated societal leaps, faint clues of lost knowledge. We see the gap between what is known and what can be imagined, and we step across it gently, with curiosity and care. The past is both vast and intimate. It is recorded in sediments that span continents and in microcrystals too small for the naked eye. It is preserved in the rise and fall of glaciers, in the layers of soil that cover vanished coasts, in the careful arrangement of stones that still survive millennia later. And within these layers, the whispers of lost civilizations linger, inviting reflection, meditation, and cautious wonder. We may never know the full truth. We may never uncover the cities, the tools, the art, or the knowledge of those lost worlds. But the evidence we have is enough to suggest their existence, to recognize the abruptness of their disappearance, and to appreciate the resilience of life and human ingenuity that followed. The narrative of the Younger Dryas is thus more than a story of catastrophe. It is a mirror of possibility and loss. It is a meditation on the fragility of civilization, the subtle persistence of knowledge, and the extraordinary forces of the cosmos that shape life on our planet. The Earth is both witness and participant, recording destruction and survival in sediments, metals, and stone. We may also reflect on scale. The world that existed before the Younger Dryas is mostly submerged, erased from the maps of memory. Coastal plains that were likely rich with human activity are now ocean floor. Rivers once coursing through fertile valleys now lie buried beneath deltas and sediment. The knowledge, artifacts, and traces of life have been swept away, leaving only hints, tantalizing fragments, and the subtle imprint of human presence. And yet, the evidence persists, patiently awaiting interpretation. We follow it with care, noting coincidences, synchronous layers, and global patterns. Each piece of evidence strengthens the hypothesis. A cataclysm altered climates, reshaped landscapes, extinguished species, and erased cultures. Yet some traces endured, some knowledge transferred, and some art and architecture rose from the ashes, as in Göbekli Tepe, hinting at continuity where we least expect it. In this way, the geological and archaeological records together form a dual narrative, one of loss, one of resilience. It is a narrative that demands respect for the forces that shape life on Earth and for the fleeting, ephemeral brilliance of human endeavor. It is also a narrative that grants us the license to wonder, to imagine the possibilities of lost civilizations, and to appreciate the complexity of the human timeline in its full, non-linear glory. And now, as we take a step back from the meticulous analysis, from the measurements and observations, we can pause to reflect on what has been uncovered. We see a planet profoundly transformed, civilizations erased, and knowledge carried forward in fragments. We see the imprint of cosmic forces and their power to reshape both land and life. We see that the Younger Dryas is not merely a climate anomaly, but a profound interruption in human history, a marker of fragility, and a prologue to mysteries yet to be explored. It is here, grounded in science, guided by evidence, yet open to imagination, that we can extend an invitation to those who would follow the journey, to witness the forensic evidence, to explore the silent layers of the Earth, and to wonder at civilizations lost beneath water and ice is to participate in the slow, patient unraveling of history. It is to honor the past, to respect the fragility of achievement, and to engage with the possibility that much remains unseen, waiting for eyes capable of reading the subtle language of the planet. And so, as the voice of evidence merges with the voice of curiosity, we prepare to journey further. The patterns are clear enough to guide us, yet subtle enough to demand careful thought. The stage is set for imagining the worlds that existed before the oceans rose, before the glaciers advanced, before history, as we record it, began in earnest. We move forward, not with certainty, but with insight, humility, and the quiet wonder that comes from seeing how delicate, how extraordinary, and how fleeting human existence can be. The Earth has preserved both catastrophe and survival. It has recorded endings and beginnings. It has hidden its secrets beneath oceans, beneath sediment, and beneath ice. And in the fragments that remain, in microcrystals, in metals, in carbon-rich layers, in sudden architectural brilliance, we glimpse the possibilities of civilizations once flourishing, and perhaps of knowledge nearly lost to time. The forensic evidence has anchored our curiosity. The Silurian hypothesis reminds us that absence of evidence is not proof of absence. Göbekli Tepe demonstrates that knowledge can endure and accelerate even after near extinction. And the Younger Dryas itself teaches the fragility and unpredictability of civilization when confronted by forces beyond human comprehension. With this understanding, we are prepared to let imagination take a more central role. The foundation of science, the rigor of observation, and the humility of historical awareness give us permission to speculate responsibly. The journey forward will explore not just what was lost, but what might have been. Civilizations that vanished beneath oceans, knowledge erased by fire and flood, and the subtle traces of life that endured despite catastrophe. It is here, at the intersection of pure science and profound speculation, that our journey finds its anchor. If this forensic exploration of deep time, this enigma of civilization's fragility, resonates with your own curiosity, and if you wish to continue unraveling these silent mysteries with us, consider subscribing to the channel and turning on notifications. Our search for a forgotten history, written in metal, glass, and silence, continues. And so, with reverence for evidence and openness to possibility, we continue the search. We move from the anchor of reality toward the horizon of imagination, carrying with us the lessons of fragility, resilience, and the profound whispers of a world that existed long before the histories we know began. Imagine the coastal plains of a world now claimed by ocean and silence. The sun rises over shallow bays, illuminating sands that once bore the footprints of life, of culture, of ingenuity. Gentle winds sweep across the low hills, carrying the scent of salt, of soil, of the first green shoots of crops, carefully tended by hands now lost to history. Birds wheel over estuaries, their calls a chorus across a horizon unbroken by concrete or asphalt, only by the occasional wooden structure, low and supple, shaped by the human mind in harmony with the tides. In this world, the oceans themselves are allies, guiding commerce and movement, offering resources without the hubris that would later come to define human ambition. Boats glide on the water, their hulls light and precise, propelled by sails woven from fibrous reeds or fabrics, dyed in subtle colors, drawn from minerals and plants. Navigation is both art and science. The stars are read like lines of scripture, the currents memorized, the tides calculated in subtle cycles that only the most attentive observer could discern. The civilization thrives not through domination, but through observation, through respect for the rhythms of water, wind, and sky. The settlements themselves are composed of materials that endure just long enough to sustain life. Wood from fast-growing trees, stones quarried with care, mud and clay molded to shape but yielding to renewal. Homes are functional, beautiful in their simplicity, adorned with carvings that tell stories, mark seasons, and honor ancestors. Gardens spread between dwellings, terraces irrigated by channels that mimic the natural flow of water, each plot a testament to understanding and harmony. People move with purpose and grace. Children learn to read currents before letters, to understand wind before fire, to sense patterns in clouds and waves. Artisans shape objects not for permanence alone, but for utility and beauty, for the pleasure of creation, for the ritual of life lived in awareness. Music resonates from small gatherings. Wooden flutes, drums of stretched hides, voices in harmony with the rhythm of labor and the cadence of the tides. Every sound is deliberate, every act a meditation. Markets are spaces of exchange, not of accumulation. Goods move according to need and craft. Spices, fibers, pigments, and tools are traded along rivers and bays, the paths connecting villages like veins of life. Knowledge flows as freely as water. Techniques of agriculture, methods of observation, designs of vessels, and subtle understandings of climate are shared openly, a network of memory and skill. In this imagined reconstruction, energy is harnessed with care. Water wheels turn gently in river currents. Wind is captured in small turbines. Sunlight is converted into warmth and light for dwellings. The civilization knows of energy, of efficiency, of harmony with the world. Yet the sky above, the cosmos beyond, remains a realm of humility, not conquest. They are brilliant, innovative, yet they cannot command comets or calm the fury of a shifting climate. Time flows differently here. A day is measured by labor, by growth, by cycles of the sun and moon. Seasons are celebrated, changes noted with festivals of planting and harvest. Knowledge accumulates slowly, carefully, not recorded in stone alone, but in practices, in observation, in ritual. There is continuity, but it is fragile, a delicate thread linking generations through subtle acts of preservation. And yet, there is unease in the perfection of this world. Signs of imbalance whisper across the landscape. Glaciers creeping down distant mountains, tides swelling with unusual vigor, winds carrying distant smoke from wildfires far to the north. The civilization, so attuned to its immediate environment, cannot fully perceive the gathering of forces beyond its horizon. It thrives, yes, but is unaware of the cosmic scale of danger approaching. They have mastery over earth, water, and wind, but not over the sky itself. It is a calm before an unimaginable storm. A civilization rich in knowledge, skill, and subtle technology stands unaware of the fragility of its existence. Every invention, every insight, every cultural flourish exists in delicate balance with a planet that can, in an instant, rewrite the rules of survival. This is the world we imagine, alive, harmonious, brilliant, yet unprotected from the indifferent forces of the cosmos. And so we linger on these plains in thought. We imagine the smell of fires used for cooking, the glint of sunlight on polished wooden tools, the soft movement of woven textiles in the breeze. We hear the laughter of children running along the water, the low conversation of elders, the hum of life organized in harmony with the natural world. We see the rhythm of agriculture, the movement of boats across estuaries, the deliberate placement of dwellings to optimize sunlight and wind. The sensory world is rich, detailed, alive, yet, in imagining it, we recognize its vulnerability. A civilization can flourish for generations, mastering the practical, the beautiful, the ephemeral, yet remain powerless before forces that surpass comprehension. The stars, the comets, the sudden cold, these are reminders that even the most sophisticated society can be erased in an instant. And here, in our minds, we move closer to the threshold of catastrophe. We feel the tension, the subtle signs of imbalance, the whispers of forces gathering beyond perception. We sense the elegance and fragility, the brilliance and the impermanence. It is a meditation on possibility, on what was, and on what could vanish without leaving a monument, a record, or a trace. We pause to reflect on the magnitude of what is hidden beneath the waves. The civilization, brilliant and thriving, now lies beneath meters of ocean and sediment. The tools, the knowledge, the rituals, almost all are lost. Only faint echoes survive, preserved in indirect clues, in abrupt advancements of later cultures, in the subtle patterns of human adaptation that hint at continuity across catastrophe. And this reflection brings us to a philosophical doorway. If a civilization so advanced, so capable, could be erased with almost no trace, what does that tell us about the nature of existence, of progress, of the durability of human achievement? The very sophistication that allowed mastery of immediate surroundings did not grant immortality, nor did it insulate them from forces beyond control. In imagining this civilization, we meditate not just on what was lost, but on what it means for our understanding of human history, of continuity, and of knowledge. We recognize the impermanence of material structures, the fragility of memory, and the subtle persistence of wisdom through indirect means. Storytelling, ritual, and cultural inheritance. Life pulses quietly in this imagined civilization, yet in every act there is intention. Society is organized not by rigid hierarchy, but by expertise, trust, and shared purpose. Elders guide, not command. Knowledge is respected as a living entity, passed through mentorship, observation, and careful practice. Children learn by imitation, by curiosity, by watching the movements of adults whose hands and eyes are attuned to subtle patterns in the natural world. Work and craft are intertwined with ritual. Pottery is shaped not only for utility, but as a vessel of expression. Each curve and line conveys meaning, encodes memory, or honors a season. Textiles carry stories in color and weave, the green of spring, the blue of rivers, the red of fire and life. Carvings on wood and bone depict myths, star patterns, migratory cycles of animals, or local deities that embody the forces of nature. Art is functional, spiritual, and educational, merging the practical with the profound. Music flows through this civilization as both a daily rhythm and a sacred practice. Instruments are crafted with care, tuned to natural resonance. Flutes of hollowed reeds echo across rivers. Drums speak to the heartbeat of the land, the pulse of work, the cadence of boats on water. Voices rise in harmony during festivals, during rites of passage, during moments of reflection on the sky and seasons. Even ordinary tasks carry rhythm. The steady beat of hammers, the scrape of blades, the rustle of leaves in cultivated gardens. Markets are centers of community, rich with scents, colors, and subtle knowledge exchange. Spices, grains, dyes, and crafted tools are offered not only for trade, but as opportunities to teach and learn. Knowledge flows alongside goods: how to cultivate plants efficiently, how to predict currents and tides, how to store food safely, how to build dwellings that endure wind and rain. Commerce is a conduit for understanding, an extension of learning and cultural continuity rather than accumulation of wealth. Technology is sophisticated, yet unobtrusive. Boats and vessels are designed for efficiency, built with lightweight materials, shaped to glide silently over water. Water wheels and rudimentary turbines harness natural flows, producing power for milling grain, irrigation, or lighting spaces. Sunlight is captured with reflective surfaces, stored as warmth, guiding cultivation and domestic comfort. The civilization understands cause and effect in energy, environment, and resource management, yet their designs leave minimal trace, ephemeral structures adapted to shifting landscapes. Rituals are a rhythm of existence. They mark planting and harvest, the cycles of the moon, the migration of animals. Ceremonies may honor the sun, the stars, the waters, or ancestors. Music, movement, and storytelling intertwine in these sacred acts, encoding practical knowledge alongside spiritual understanding. Every rite preserves memory, embeds wisdom, and reinforces communal bonds. Education is experiential. Apprenticeships begin in early childhood, guided by observation, hands-on practice, and reflective storytelling. Lessons are contextual, rooted in daily life. A child learns measurement by tending a field, physics by constructing a boat, astronomy by watching tides and stars. Learning is embedded in living, in doing, in noticing the subtle nuances of the natural world. This civilization possesses knowledge that may seem advanced, yet it is inseparable from the environment. Energy is harnessed, but never hoarded. Navigation is mastered, but never exploitative. Agriculture flourishes without stripping the land bare. They innovate without arrogance, invent without hubris, creating systems both elegant and resilient, yet all contingent on forces beyond control. Social life is rich and interconnected. Festivals occur at seasonal thresholds: solstices, equinoxes, harvests, and migrations. Stories of origin, of the cosmos, of human endeavor, are performed through dance, music, and theater. These narratives encode survival strategies, cosmology, ethics, and communal memory. Every performance is both entertainment and instruction, delight and transmission of critical knowledge. In daily life, the ordinary is suffused with beauty. Tools are crafted to please the eye as much as the hand. Homes are oriented for optimal sunlight and airflow. Gardens combine utility with aesthetic pleasure, each plant carefully chosen for nourishment, fragrance, and symbolism. The civilization's touch upon the world is deliberate, harmonious, and conscious of consequence. Even leisure carries purpose. Games and sports refine coordination, strategy, and cooperation. Music and storytelling cultivate empathy, imagination, and reflection. Time is divided between necessity and creativity, work and contemplation, practicality and wonder. Existence itself is treated as a continuum of learning, exploration, and reverence for the delicate balance of life. Yet, despite brilliance, there is impermanence. Buildings are durable only within the lifespan of wood, thatch, and clay. Tools corrode or decay. Written records, if any, are vulnerable. Stone may persist in small traces, but grand monuments are absent. The civilization achieves mastery over immediate systems, but cannot contend with celestial or global-scale forces. Their ingenuity, subtle and ephemeral, leaves little permanent trace, yet its imprint may survive indirectly. In post-cataclysmic architecture, sudden leaps in skill or cultural patterns that emerge as if from nowhere. In the quiet of night, the civilization gazes at the stars. They chart movements of planets, record eclipses, note patterns of comets, all as part of survival and understanding. Yet no knowledge grants immunity from catastrophe. They do not perceive the approaching cosmic threat, fragments of comet or asteroid, the sudden cooling of the Younger Dryas, the rising tides that will erase coasts and plains. They are brilliant, adaptive, yet transient. And here, we begin to sense the paradox, the tension between brilliance and fragility. A civilization can understand wind, water, and sun, can design vessels, irrigation, and energy systems, can cultivate knowledge, art, and ritual, and still remain powerless against the universe's vast, indifferent forces. Their world is alive, detailed, intricate, yet it is poised on the edge of disappearance. It is in imagining this richness that we see the paradox of existence. Subtlety and impermanence may be the hallmark of sophistication. A civilization that leaves no megastone monuments may have achieved wisdom in ways imperceptible to future archaeologists. Their greatest achievements are not recorded in stone, but in knowledge, practice, and culture, fleeting yet potent. The calm of this civilization is shattered slowly at first, imperceptibly, like a distant drumbeat growing louder. The oceans rise subtly, tides creeping beyond familiar shores, flooding fields, eroding riverbanks, and swallowing low-lying dwellings. Storms arrive with unusual frequency, winds stronger, skies darker, clouds heavier. Animals sense the shift, migrations altering, populations dwindling, signaling that the natural rhythms are disturbed. The people notice too, with a mixture of curiosity and unease. They observe the tides, the stars, the winds, the subtle changes in climate. Rituals are performed to honor the forces they cannot command. Prayers and offerings are made, not in desperation, but in acknowledgement of the power and mystery of the world. Yet no ceremony, no insight, can alter the underlying trajectory of cosmic events. Then, the impact comes. Perhaps a fragment of a comet, streaking through the atmosphere, ignites skies across continents. The air burns with a heat unimaginable. The ground shakes, and fire leaps across dry plains. Animals flee, forests crackle, rivers churn. Shockwaves ripple through the land, melting sands into glass, fusing particles into forms that will one day be discovered by distant scientists as proof of a world-altering event. In the human settlements, there is confusion, courage, and swift action. People gather families, herd livestock to higher ground, secure vessels, and attempt to preserve knowledge, food, and tools. Some flee inland, others to higher hills, all struggling against a force that is neither visible nor negotiable. The civilization's ingenuity is tested, its coordination challenged, its survival instinct awakened. The rising waters are relentless. Low-lying plains are submerged first. Fishing villages vanish beneath waves, leaving only whispers of memory. The fertile deltas, once teeming with crops, are drowned, leaving behind layers of sediment and salt. The civilization's reliance on rivers and coasts, once a strength, now becomes a vulnerability. Structures dissolve into water. Cultivated land becomes a mirror of sky. Boats, once instruments of mastery, carry the fleeing, the lost, the witnesses of collapse. Simultaneously, the global climate shifts. Temperatures plunge as the Younger Dryas takes hold, glaciers advance, and winters stretch with harsh rigor. Food sources dwindle, animals vanish, and forests fail to recover their former abundance. The rhythm of life is broken, survival becomes paramount, and the continuity of knowledge teeters on the brink. Yet amidst the catastrophe, fragments of culture persist. Rituals continue, improvisational yet faithful to tradition. Stories are retold, carrying warnings and wisdom, condensed to essentials, meant to guide survivors. Tools are preserved, copied, adapted. Skills transfer, not perfectly, but enough to seed the foundations of future societies. The essence of the civilization survives, faintly, like embers beneath ash. The catastrophe is both sudden and enduring. It is a strike of cosmic violence and a slow unfolding of environmental consequences. Water, ice, fire, and wind conspire to erase most traces of human accomplishment. The civilization vanishes from sight, leaving little but sediment, melted sands, and traces of ash. The oceans reclaim coasts, glaciers reshape valleys, storms bury memories beneath layers of cataclysmic debris. The paradox becomes evident. A people who mastered life along the edges of water and earth, who understood rhythm, energy, and craft, are undone not by ignorance, but by forces beyond control. They did not fail through folly, but through cosmic circumstance. The fragility of existence, the impermanence of achievement, is starkly revealed. Yet even in loss, there is persistence. Traces survive in subtle forms. Abrupt shifts in human settlement patterns after the Younger Dryas, sudden leaps in construction techniques, mysterious alignments of megaliths like Göbekli Tepe that hint at inherited knowledge. Perhaps some survivors carried memory across generations, influencing post-cataclysmic cultures in ways we can only infer. The civilization is gone, yet whispers of its wisdom linger in human adaptation, ingenuity, and myth. As we meditate on this, we sense the delicate balance between brilliance and vulnerability. The civilization demonstrates that intelligence, skill, and cultural richness do not guarantee permanence. They remind us that the world is vast, dynamic, and indifferent, and that survival is contingent on humility as much as innovation. What was achieved over centuries can be undone in decades, hours, or moments. The silent oceans, the ice, the buried plains hold the evidence. Yet the narrative of life continues, echoing fragments of brilliance through time. In reflecting on their loss, we confront a philosophical truth. Permanence is illusionary. Even the most sophisticated structures, the most advanced technologies, the richest culture can be erased. Knowledge, art, and wisdom are fragile. Only the deliberate preservation, transmission, and adaptation of ideas offers the chance of continuity across catastrophe. The civilization's story becomes a meditation on resilience and impermanence. We imagine the people fleeing coasts, guiding families to higher ground, struggling to protect what they can. We imagine the floodwaters swallowing their settlements, the cold silencing their fields, the skies igniting in fire and cosmic fury. And yet, we also imagine the quiet persistence of memory, A ritual repeated in a new village, a tool reshaped from fragments, a story adapted to warn or inspire. From this cataclysm, a lesson emerges. The sophistication of a civilization is measured not only by its accomplishments, but by its awareness of forces beyond its control, and by its capacity to transmit knowledge beyond its own demise. The fragility of material achievement contrasts with the subtle endurance of wisdom. What vanishes from sight may survive in form, function, and story. And in imagining all this, we prepare to draw the threads into reflection. The civilization's brilliance and collapse, its harmony and vulnerability, set the stage for contemplating our own world. Their story is a mirror. A civilization can flourish and vanish without a trace, and yet leave behind seeds of continuity, inspiration, and warning. It is the rhythm of creation and destruction, of life and loss, that defines the human journey. And now we step back from the waters, from the ashes, from the silence of 12,800 years, to consider the meaning of what has been lost. We reflect on a civilization that thrived on the margins of oceans and rivers, that mastered wind and water, that wove knowledge into ritual and art, yet could not command the cosmos. Their disappearance is a whisper across time, a reminder that even brilliance is fragile, and that permanence is not granted by intelligence, skill, or insight. What lessons can we draw for ourselves, for the modern world, for the present age of humankind? We, too, build near oceans and rivers. We, too, harness energy, manipulate climate, and shape landscapes. We, too, tell stories and pass knowledge, with the hope of enduring through generations. Yet the cosmos remains indifferent, the forces beyond our control vast and merciless. History, as we have seen, is not linear. It is a tapestry of catastrophe and adaptation, of loss and resurgence, of brilliance erased and reborn. The paradox of the lost civilization is clear. The more ephemeral the material trace, the more profound the subtlety of its wisdom. Megastone structures are absent, not because the people were incapable, but because their intelligence expressed itself in forms that could not resist the tide, the fire, or the ice. Technology may have been ethereal, ritual precise, energy systems subtle, all designed for function, beauty, and sustainability, not for permanence. The greatest lessons of a civilization are sometimes the hardest to detect, hidden beneath sediment, beneath ocean, beneath the quiet passage of time. And yet, in imagining them, in feeling their rhythms, their music, their labor, their art, we are reminded of the essence of human endeavor. To create, to observe, to learn, to harmonize with the natural world. These are the marks of intelligence, of culture, of life itself. Monuments may crumble, but the transmission of knowledge, the imprint of ritual, the resonance of art, these echo across centuries, even when unrecognized. We are also reminded of humility. The cosmos is indifferent to human achievement. A comet, a sudden climate shift, an ocean swallowing coasts, all may undo what we consider permanent. The fragility of human systems is part of the meditation, part of the story, part of the philosophical truth this civilization leaves behind. It is not a warning to despair, but to awaken awareness, to cherish knowledge, to honor the delicate balance of existence. In connecting this past to the present, we see that our survival depends not solely on technology, but on foresight, respect, and understanding of the forces we cannot control. Our achievements are remarkable, yet no civilization is immune to sudden change. The true ruin is not the collapse of stone or the loss of cities, but the disappearance of knowledge, wisdom, and the capacity to adapt and transmit understanding. Every act of preservation, every careful teaching, every story told is a defiance of oblivion, a gesture toward continuity across generations. We imagine, then, the quiet presence of this lost civilization beneath the waves. We see its fleeting footprints in sudden leaps of knowledge, in structures that appear too soon after catastrophe, in rituals and patterns that seem inherited rather than newly invented. Their subtle influence survives, faint yet persistent, whispering across ages, guiding those who come after, even as their names and monuments are erased. And as we meditate on this, we feel the larger rhythm. Life itself is an oscillation between creation and destruction, emergence and disappearance, memory and oblivion. The ocean hides secrets not to punish, but as a reminder of scale, of time, of forces beyond our control. The ice preserves and erases simultaneously. The wind carries both song and dust. The sky witnesses all and intervenes only in its indifferent way. We are part of this continuum, inheritors of lessons we cannot fully perceive, witnesses to the impermanence and resilience of life. The story invites us to consider our own fragility, our own responsibility, and our own capacity for wisdom. If a civilization can vanish in the space of a single generation, what must we cherish today? What knowledge, what creativity, what humility should guide our path? What do we wish to transmit, and how will we ensure that it endures beyond the next cataclysm, whether cosmic, climatic, or human-made? And now, as the story winds down, we slow our pace. We imagine the sound of waves, the whisper of wind over flooded plains, the gentle patter of rain on long-submerged rooftops. We feel the cold of ice advancing, the warmth of hearths long gone, the resonance of music carried on unseen currents. Time folds upon itself, and we rest in the stillness of thought, in the quiet reflection of human achievement and loss. The gentle realization comes. History is not a line, but a cycle, a river whose waters carry both brilliance and oblivion. We may never see the lost civilization directly, may never touch its objects or read its texts, yet its story speaks to us, softly, patiently, profoundly. We learn the rhythm of creation and disappearance, the interplay of knowledge and impermanence, the necessity of humility in the face of the cosmos. As night deepens and thought slows, we breathe with the world. We hear the distant echo of oceans, the melting of ice, the movement of tides. We feel connected to those who lived, who created, who vanished beneath the waves and sediments, whose subtle wisdom endures like a quiet pulse beneath the visible world. And in this quiet reflection, we are invited to rest, to let the story settle, to let imagination dwell in both wonder and awareness, to consider the fragility and brilliance of life across time. The universe breathes, the ocean whispers, the ice murmurs, and we may rest, carrying the meditation of 12,800 years into our own consciousness, gently, calmly, profoundly. We begin once more with the quiet reflection of evidence, as though walking gently across a landscape strewn with the remnants of an unimaginable past. The tiny grain of shocked quartz appears again in our mind's eye, its surface fractured and scarred, a testament to a moment of heat and pressure more extreme than the sun's surface. It is a fragment that survived the sweep of time, the upheavals of glaciers, the rise and fall of seas, a singular witness to a cataclysm that reshaped the world. We imagine the conditions that could create such a grain, a fragment of a comet or asteroid entering the atmosphere, disintegrating in fire and wind, releasing an energy that bends and fuses minerals, imprinting upon them a memory of violence that will endure for millennia. This grain, microscopic yet monumental in meaning, is a portal. It carries within it the echoes of planetary upheaval, the whispers of vanishing life, and the faint trace of civilizations that may have existed alongside megafauna, along the fertile coasts and river plains now lost beneath oceans. The platinum layer, thin and almost ethereal, stretches across continents, a silent thread linking disparate corners of the globe. We imagine it like starlight condensed into metal, scattered by cosmic fury, settling into sediments that will one day be read as testimony of a singular, synchronous event. This metallic trace is subtle, almost invisible to the casual observer, yet its presence is unmistakable to those who know how to read the language of Earth. It is the fingerprint of a cosmic visitor, the signal of disruption and transformation. It suggests the suddenness of change, the almost unimaginable scale of heat, wind, and energy that must have swept the planet in an instant. Not centuries, not decades, but moments, whose echoes ripple through ice cores, sediment layers, and the microscopic structure of minerals. The nanodiamonds and melted glass intensify the narrative. We picture a furnace of 1,000 suns igniting across the Earth, temperatures rising to levels unreplicable except by cosmic impact or catastrophic energy release. Nanodiamonds form in this extreme environment, tiny and perfect, their crystalline structures recording a moment of energy beyond human comprehension. Melted glass hardens in irregular patterns, capturing the chaotic fury of fire and wind, yet preserving, in its stillness, a frozen record of events. These signatures are not random. They are coherent, synchronous, and tell a story too large for any ordinary climate fluctuation or slow evolutionary shift. They speak to suddenness, to trauma, to the kind of planetary-scale disruption that can erase forests, extinguish species, and sweep away the accomplishments of civilizations. The black mats, thick with carbon and organic remnants, evoke a shroud over the Earth itself. Here, life mourns. The extinction of mammoths, saber-toothed tigers, giant sloths, and countless other species is recorded in these layers. The disappearance of the Clovis culture, a people whose tools and way of life had thrived for centuries, is similarly entombed. We imagine the forests silenced, the rivers clogged with debris, the skies darkened by dust and smoke, and the air thick with particulate memory of the firestorm. The black mats are the Earth's record of grief, a biological lament for the sudden, irreversible changes that overtook the surface. They are a reminder that life is both resilient and fragile, capable of adapting over eons yet vulnerable to moments of sudden, colossal disruption. Together, these layers, quartz, platinum, nanodiamonds, black mats, form a coherent story, one that speaks to the imagination as much as to the intellect. They suggest a catastrophic event of planetary magnitude, simultaneous, coherent, and devastating. And within this destruction, we perceive the possibility of a civilization existing alongside it, one whose traces are now subtle, obscured, and almost entirely erased. The suddenness of the Younger Dryas, the plunge into near-glacial conditions, the rise of seas by over 100 meters, all conspire to bury any evidence beneath sediment, water, and ice. It is in this combination of obliteration and preservation that the mystery deepens, in the spaces where geology and imagination intersect. We reflect on the paradox inherent in this story. The most fragile traces of existence, a microscopic grain, a thin layer of metal, a fragment of carbon, hold the most profound truths. Vast civilizations may vanish, oceans may rise, glaciers may advance, yet in these tiny, quiet archives, history endures. They remind us that the scale of the universe is indifferent, that survival is contingent, and that even brilliance is temporary. The universe measures not the sophistication of craft, but the resilience to forces beyond comprehension. We are left to consider what is truly lasting, and how we, as observers and inheritors of memory, must attune ourselves to the subtle and enduring signals of the past. Our reflection deepens as we consider human fragility. Civilizations may flourish for centuries, yet be undone in an instant. Knowledge, skill, ritual, and art, all the cumulative efforts of generations, can vanish with rising tides, falling ice, or cosmic impact. Yet, as with the lost civilization, some elements persist. Ideas transfer, memory adapts, techniques survive indirectly. Göbekli Tepe, suddenly appearing after the Younger Dryas, stands as a testament to knowledge inherited, reconstructed, or reimagined by survivors. Its stones, carefully aligned, its carvings intricate and deliberate, whisper of a deeper continuity, a thread of civilization that was nearly obliterated, yet survived in fragmented forms. This teaches us humility, and reflection. Human ingenuity is remarkable, yet vulnerable. The persistence of culture is subtle, often hidden, and requires curiosity, intelligence, and patience to discern. We may not see the lost civilization directly, yet we feel its influence, its echoes in alignment, ritual, and sudden leaps of skill. The lesson is clear. Mastery does not guarantee permanence. Awareness and adaptability are as critical as knowledge. We shift now to the philosophical dimension, the reflection upon impermanence and continuity. Civilizations rise and fall, species appear and vanish, and yet the earth carries the memory of these events in sediment, stone, ice, and air. The cosmos is indifferent, yet it bears witness. Our awareness, our capacity to perceive these patterns, is what grants meaning to history. We inherit not only the traces of success, but the echoes of collapse. By meditating on these patterns, we attune ourselves to the scale of existence and the vulnerability inherent in intelligence. And as we reflect, we extend our attention to the human condition. We are part of this continuum, both fragile and capable, temporary yet conscious, vulnerable yet creative. We inherit knowledge, adapt it, transmit it, and thereby participate in a cycle of continuity amidst impermanence. Our creations, whether fleeting or monumental, are subject to the same forces that erased civilizations before us. Our responsibility is not only to innovate, but to preserve, to observe, and to respect the scale and power of the universe. As this contemplation unfolds, we move toward a slower, gentler rhythm. We imagine the soft sigh of the ocean over long submerged coasts, the whisper of wind across frozen plains, the delicate fall of snow on valleys that were once inhabited. The sounds of life, of catastrophe, of memory, blend into a meditation on impermanence and resilience. Every ripple in the ocean, every shifting of ice, every drift of ash, carries a message of continuity, of subtle preservation, and of quiet endurance. We meditate on the interplay of brilliance and fragility, of knowledge and loss. The tiny evidence of cosmic catastrophe teaches us about scale and consequence, yet also about subtle persistence. Even as civilizations are erased, fragments endure, in alignment, in craft, in inherited ritual. The essence of human achievement is not always monumental, but often hidden, waiting to be discerned by patient minds. The story of 12,800 years ago is therefore both a warning and an inspiration. Brilliance is not immune, yet wisdom can endure quietly, subtly, across generations. And now, in this stillness, we are invited to carry forward meditation into presence. We reflect on continuity, the persistence of knowledge, the adaptation of culture, the quiet resilience that survives catastrophe. We reflect on impermanence, the vulnerability of life, the fleeting nature of achievement, the inevitability of loss. We reflect on responsibility, the need for awareness, for humility, for care in our actions, and for deliberate transmission of knowledge to those who follow. The rhythm slows further. The breath deepens. We rest in reflection, in awe, and in meditation. The oceans whisper, the ice murmurs, the cosmos breathes. We carry the story of 12,800 years, of vanished civilizations, of cosmic forces, of human fragility, into our consciousness. And in this awareness, we find calm, clarity, and connection. We continue to walk along the corridors of memory, through layers of time and sediment, imagining the worlds that existed and were erased long before our recorded history began. Each grain of quartz, each shard of glass, each trace of platinum is a message from the earth itself, an archive that speaks in silence, a whisper of events too vast to fully comprehend. These fragments remind us that time is not linear, that history is not simply a chain of human events, but a tapestry woven of cosmic forces, planetary cycles, and the quiet persistence of life. We recognize the patterns: sudden upheaval, extinction, survival, and in this recognition, a profound sense of humility emerges. Consider the megafauna, magnificent creatures that once roamed fertile plains, grazed in vast herds, and hunted in stealth and power. Mammoths, giant sloths, saber-toothed cats, all vanished almost simultaneously, leaving empty landscapes and echoes in the black mats. We imagine the forests darkened by smoke, the rivers clogged with debris, the plains transformed overnight. And yet, in the wake of destruction, life adapts. Smaller mammals survive, plants recolonize, and eventually, the fragile seeds of human culture persist, like a flickering light in darkness. The lesson is unmistakable. Even amidst catastrophe, continuity is possible, subtle, yet enduring, fragile, yet resilient. The lost civilization, perhaps more advanced than we dare imagine, existed on these plains and coasts, now hidden beneath water, sediment, and ice. We envision cities built along river mouths, settlements oriented to the stars, technologies harnessed for power and movement. Perhaps they mastered forms of navigation unknown to us, or drew energy from sources now lost. Yet, like all civilizations before and after, they were not immune to the forces of the cosmos. A single event, a fragmenting comet, a sudden impact, a climatic plunge erased their works, leaving behind only the faintest traces, the quietest hints, the microscopic memories within minerals. This paradox captivates the mind. The most advanced, the most capable, may leave the least visible evidence. Stone monuments crumble, wooden structures rot, knowledge is lost unless carefully transmitted. And yet, the impact of a civilization is not measured solely in what remains physically, but in what is carried forward through influence, memory, and adaptation. Göbekli Tepe, appearing in the aftermath of the Younger Dryas, may have been one such vessel of continuity. Its construction, deliberate and precise, suggests inherited knowledge, perhaps a reconstruction, an echo of sophistication from the civilizations that had vanished. Even without direct monuments, their influence may have persisted, shaping human understanding subtly and profoundly. We reflect on humanity itself. We are both fragile and conscious, capable of great creation, yet equally susceptible to the forces of nature and time. Our cities, our technologies, our culture, all are temporary by cosmic standards. Yet our awareness, our ability to reflect, to learn from the past, gives us a form of endurance that outlives stone and steel. In this awareness, we find both responsibility and possibility. Responsibility to preserve knowledge, possibility to act with care, humility, and foresight. The cosmos, vast and indifferent, serves as a mirror. Stars explode and collapse. Comets streak across skies. Ice sheets advance and retreat. Planetary and cosmic forces move on scales beyond human comprehension. Yet we can perceive patterns, interpret signals, and derive meaning from the silent testimony left in minerals, sediments, and ice. This perception grants us a role as both witness and participant, observers who must also act with understanding. The fragility of human endeavor is apparent, yet within that fragility lies profound opportunity to observe, to adapt, to transmit, and to endure. We pause to meditate on continuity across millennia. Though civilizations rise and fall, knowledge and influence often survive in subtle ways. A technique, a story, a ritual may persist when monuments crumble, when cities vanish, when libraries are lost. The faint traces we discover, from shocked quartz to nanodiamonds, remind us that permanence is often microscopic, delicate, and hidden. Endurance does not always announce itself boldly. It is found in resilience, adaptability, and subtle preservation. And it is these qualities that enable culture, knowledge, and even consciousness to persist against the indifferent sweep of time. Consider the rhythms of nature itself. Oceans rise and fall, rivers shift, glaciers advance and retreat. Seasons cycle endlessly, yet each iteration is subtly different, carrying forward both continuity and change. Within these rhythms, we see the same paradox reflected in human civilization. Life is transient, yet traces endure. Knowledge may vanish in the immediate aftermath of catastrophe, but memory, adaptation, and influence find pathways, subtle and indirect, to persist. As we move toward a meditative cadence, we dwell on the concept of fragility and resilience intertwined. The universe reminds us that brilliance is not permanent. Only awareness, care, and deliberate action can preserve the essence of creation. The lost civilization, the vanished megafauna, the black mats and nanodiamonds, all are lessons. They teach us that survival is not solely the result of capability, but also of respect for forces larger than ourselves, of observation, and of humility. Now, let us turn inward, reflecting on the human condition. Our ingenuity is remarkable, yet fragile. Our creations are beautiful, yet transient. Our knowledge is powerful, yet vulnerable to loss. Yet, in conscious reflection, we find continuity. Through teaching, adaptation, observation, and preservation, we carry forward the essence of human endeavor. We inherit wisdom, reconstruct knowledge, and transmit lessons, ensuring that even amidst catastrophe, a thread of consciousness endures. We visualize, too, the quiet persistence of memory and ritual. Symbols carved in stone, alignments with the stars, the deliberate placement of structures, all may outlast material durability. They are echoes of thought, culture, and intention, able to survive even when the civilizations themselves vanish. This is the subtlety of endurance, not in volume or scale, but in precision, adaptation, and influence. It is a whisper across time, detectable only to those patient enough to listen, reflective enough to understand. And so we continue, carrying the story into meditation. We hear the waves lapping over submerged coasts. We feel the wind brushing across icy plains. We sense the slow retreat of glaciers, the subtle shift of rivers, the movement of continents over eons. The earth remembers, and in that memory, we find both humility and inspiration. The lesson is quiet. Existence is fleeting, yet awareness endures. Brilliance can vanish, yet wisdom persists. Catastrophe may erase monuments, yet influence flows through culture and memory. And now, with the pace slowing further, the mind begins to rest. We dwell in awareness of fragility, continuity, impermanence, and resilience. The cosmos hums softly, the ocean whispers, the ice murmurs. We meditate on time itself, vast and indifferent, yet filled with subtle traces of brilliance. We reflect on human responsibility, on our potential to preserve, transmit, and act with understanding. We feel the gentle rhythm of existence around us. Every wave, every gust of wind, every falling snowflake, every distant star carries a message of continuity and impermanence. We rest in the quiet understanding that even in erasure, fragments persist. Even in catastrophe, adaptation occurs. Even in loss, influence survives. And in this realization, we find calm, perspective, and quiet strength. We now sink deeper into the quietude, letting the mind drift over the contours of history, over oceans risen and glaciers retreating, over lands once teeming with life, now silent beneath water and ice. We imagine the coasts where civilizations may have thrived, their cities aligned with the stars, their knowledge encoded in rituals, art, and architecture. The calm before the Younger Dryas impact stretches before us like a long, undisturbed ocean, a civilization moving gracefully across its plains, unaware of the forces converging from beyond the sky. Here, in this moment of stillness, we sense both magnificence and vulnerability. We reflect on their achievements, subtle and ethereal, lost to the tides of time yet echoing faintly in what came after. Perhaps they harnessed energy in ways unknown, navigated the seas with precision, cultivated knowledge of the natural world that surpassed even our own early understanding. Yet their brilliance did not grant permanence. The universe does not honor mastery with survival. Instead, it leaves a whisper in minerals fused by cosmic fire, in sediments thick with carbon, in layers of platinum scattered across continents, telling us that they existed and that they were extraordinary, and yet, ultimately, mortal. The paradox grips us. The more advanced, the more ephemeral. Stone can crumble. Wood can rot. Knowledge can be forgotten. But ideas, subtle and delicate, are more resilient than matter. They transmit, adapt, and influence generations yet to come. The lost civilization may live on not in monuments, but in the seeds of understanding scattered among survivors, in the sudden leaps of insight that follow cataclysm. We imagine Göbekli Tepe again, rising in the aftermath, a testament to continuity amid rupture, a bridge between what was lost and what humanity could rebuild. And now, we dwell on ourselves. We too are vulnerable. Cities, technologies, culture, knowledge, all can vanish in the face of sudden forces. Yet consciousness, reflection, adaptation, these endure. The Younger Dryas teaches us humility. It reminds us that we are participants in a cosmic continuum, fragile yet capable, fleeting yet conscious, vulnerable yet creative. As we extend this reflection, the mind opens to wonder. Stars ignite and collapse. Comets streak across dark skies. Glaciers advance. Oceans shift. We perceive these rhythms and their echoes in life and culture, in extinction and rebirth, in destruction and continuity. We imagine our own future civilizations, fragile yet striving, influenced by lessons from the deep past. We sense the connection, thread-like and subtle, linking all beings, all epochs, all worlds. The ocean hums beneath our imagination. Its waves lap softly against coasts that no longer exist, gently erasing footprints and cities alike, yet preserving sedimentary memories. The wind whispers across plains that were once forests, carrying pollen, dust, and echoes of vanished megafauna. The ice murmurs, shifting slowly, preserving moments in time with crystalline patience. Even in erasure, there is preservation. Even in silence, there is testimony. We slow our breath, matching the rhythm of this imagined earth. The mind listens to the pulse of continents, to the soft sigh of submerged cities, to the resonance of lost knowledge. Here, in meditation, we understand the fragility of brilliance and the subtlety of endurance. We recognize the paradox. The most advanced may leave the least visible trace, yet influence survives in echoes, whispers, and indirect transmission. We honor the lost, celebrate subtle continuity, and reflect on our own place in this vast tapestry. Now the senses turn inward. We hear only the faintest ocean waves, feel the cool of imagined ice, sense the rhythm of cosmic time. We visualize the faint lights of vanished civilizations, now invisible, yet their influence flows quietly, shaping thought, culture, and imagination across millennia. We breathe in, absorbing their lesson, that awareness, adaptability, and careful transmission of knowledge are the true measures of endurance. Brilliance may vanish, yet wisdom persists, subtle and enduring, ready to inspire those who come after. The night sky expands in our mind's eye, stars distant yet shining. Each star a witness to catastrophe and rebirth, to creation and erasure. We feel our own consciousness as part of this rhythm, fragile, aware, yet capable of perceiving and understanding vast cycles of time. We sense the same forces that erased the lost civilization acting still, shaping, shifting, guiding the fate of all life. And yet, we are awake to them, aware, reflective, capable of transmitting understanding to those who follow. The mind softens further, thoughts drifting like gentle currents. We no longer recount evidence in strict detail, but feel its resonance. The shocked quartz, the platinum layer, the nanodiamonds, the black mats, all are imprints of cosmic events. All are silent messages. They tell a story of loss and continuity, of brilliance and impermanence, of civilizations rising and falling like tides. We hold this story lightly, allowing it to ripple through our awareness without weight, like a melody remembered in dreams. We now transition fully into meditation, into the gentle cadence of presence. The ocean whispers, the wind sighs, the ice murmurs, and the stars watch silently. We imagine ourselves lying upon soft sands of a vanished coast, hearing only the ebb and flow of waves, feeling only the rhythm of breath and the quiet passage of time. The mind drifts unburdened, guided by the gentle pulse of memory and imagination. In this state, reflection deepens, and the story of 12,800 years ago becomes both distant and intimate. We recognize that catastrophe and continuity are inseparable. Civilizations can vanish, yet their influence flows. Knowledge may be buried, yet it persists in subtle channels. Life endures, fragile yet resilient, shaped by forces beyond comprehension, guided by subtle rhythms, and ever adapting. We rest in this awareness. The universe breathes, the oceans hum, the ice whispers, the stars shine, and we, aware and quiet, drift with the pulse of deep time. Finally, the journey of reflection, meditation, and wonder reaches its gentle conclusion. We offer a final thought, a quiet reminder. The story of 12,800 years ago, the lost civilizations, the cosmic catastrophes, and the subtle traces they left behind are now part of our consciousness. We carry them in awareness, meditation, and imagination as lessons and inspirations. And as we drift toward sleep, we do so knowing that the river of time continues, carrying both catastrophe and continuity, brilliance and fragility, loss and wisdom. This was another story in the endless river of time. The truth of 12,800 years ago, like a secret, is safe now. May this secret carry you gently into sleep. Good night, dreamer of ages. And remember to follow the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss the next journey. The universe watches, the ocean whispers, and you may rest